couple worth billions was found at the bottom of their own home, sitting side by side, neatly arranged in the dark. Nobody broke in. I was on the wall. I recorded every person who came through this house while it was listed for sale. I am a lockbox. Bolted beside the front door, I keep the key. My logs show the key was never taken out at the hour their world went cold, and yet the door was opened.
Subscribe, like, and turn on notifications.
That afternoon, the Shermans met with their custom home builder, an architect, and a subcontractor at Barry's offices. Honey left the meeting around 5:30. Barry stayed behind. Honey arrived home. Around 6:21, she made a brief call to a friend, and just like that, she slipped into the shadows. Barry sent a routine email to his team later that night. Then he went silent too. Neither of them appeared anywhere after that. My record shows nothing unusual entered through me that night. Nothing. December 15th, 2017. Friday. They were not the first people to enter the house that morning. The housekeeper and personal trainer had arrived that same morning around 8:25. They noticed the alarm was off. They later told investigators they had never seen it turned off before. They went through the kitchen, the hallway, and the rooms on the upper floor. They never opened the pool room door. They left. The Shermans' real estate agent arrived at the house that morning. Another realtor had also come to show the property to two clients. The code was correct. The key came out. The door opened. Kitchen, living areas, stairs, basement. The indoor pool was always the selling point. Every agent who brought clients through walked them to the basement pool area. The air down there was colder, humid, still. The agent opened the door and turned on the lights. The water beneath the covered pool had already turned green. At first, she thought it was some kind of display, a bizarre installation left behind by the designers. Two figures, seated, dressed, still. Then she stepped closer. The scene stopped looking staged. Barry Sherman, 75. He was found resting heavily against a low pool railing. Honey Sherman, 70. Beside him. The same way they had been for 46 years. There were two sculptures in the basement pool area. A man, a woman, seated side by side, legs extended forward, and yet she was found there beside Barry, resting in a scene that felt disturbingly familiar to those who knew the property. Barry had one leg crossed over the other. Investigators would later question whether that positioning happened naturally at all. There is one detail investigators could not ignore. Honey had severe knee problems. She avoided the basement. Friends later said she almost never went down to the basement. And yet she was found there beside Barry, resting in a position that felt disturbingly familiar to those who knew the house. The sculptures had been photographed weeks earlier as part of the real estate listing. Those photos were publicly accessible. The opportunity to study them existed before anyone walked through that door. No sign of forced entry anywhere in the house. Investigators found that a window in a basement room had been left open, a freshly painted room, airing out the chemical smell that clung to its walls in December. A door leading from the basement to the outside was also left unlocked. The Shermans apparently left it that way regularly. No security cameras inside or outside the property. A house listed at just under $7 million. Someone close to the family told investigators that Barry had once said they did not need them. Barry was never afraid of anything. That meant something else, too. Anyone who had spent enough time around this house would have known there were no cameras watching the doors, the driveway, or the basement entrance. No recordings, no footage, no timestamps. I have no record of who knew that. Only that someone may have understood exactly how invisible this house really was. Years later, investigators would release footage of a figure walking near the property that night. But before investigators focused on the figure outside the house, they focused on the people inside it. To understand why investigators kept returning to this house, they first had to understand the man who owned it. Barry inherited a struggling drug company after his uncle's passing. Then he turned it into one of the largest generic pharmaceutical empires in Canada. Apotex, the largest generic pharmaceutical operation in Canada. By the time he was 75, Forbes estimated his net worth at over $3 billion. His wife, Honey, was 70. She sat on the boards of hospitals, foundations, and university programs. Together, they were the kind of couple that gets buildings named after them while they are still alive to see it. In the fall of 2017, they listed this house for sale. They were not going anywhere far. They were already planning a new home across the city. Agents came to this house. Buyers came. I released the key. They opened the front door. They walked through the rooms. When they left, the key came back to me. I recorded the access. I recorded the timing. Honey's phone was found in a bathroom she did not regularly use. Barry's driving gloves were on the floor near the door connecting the garage to the interior. His coat was there. So was the paperwork he had been carrying earlier that evening. It looked less like someone preparing to leave and more like someone who thought they would be back in a moment. But the movements inside the house did not seem to match. One path faded near the garage entrance. The other continued deeper into the house. And somehow, both of them remained in the basement pool room. The records outside the house did something worse. The more investigators looked into Barry Sherman, the larger the list became. Barry Sherman was not a man with one enemy. Apotex had waged hundreds of legal actions in Canadian federal court alone, patent wars, generic drug battles across decades. His cousins, the Winter brothers, had been suing him for over a decade. They claimed the family was owed a 20% stake in Apotex, more than $1 billion. In September 2017, 3 months before December 13th, an Ontario Superior Court judge dismissed the case. Barry had also separately sued Carey over loans. Carey lost that case and was ordered to hand over properties to repay the debt. 1 week before the Shermans were last seen alive, the court issued another order. Carey's group owed $340,000 in legal costs. Carey later told a television interviewer he had no alibi for the night of December 13th. He later admitted he had imagined dark endings involving Barry many times. Carey Winter had no code for this lockbox. I have no record of him entering through me during the entire listing period. So if he ever stood in that basement, he did not get there through me. If not someone locked out, then someone who was let in. Eventually, investigators began looking closer to the family. But debt alone did not explain how someone entered that house without forcing a single door open. Early theories inside the investigation pointed toward an internal dispute. That changed later. Investigators later concluded the scene may have been staged, which meant investigators could no longer look only inside the family. Years later, investigators released footage of the only person they could not identify. It came from a neighboring security camera, recorded on the night of December 13th. A figure in dark clothing walking near the Sherman residence. Snow on the ground. The gait stood out immediately, the right foot lifted sharply with every step. No face visible, no identification made. Police said they identified every person captured on camera near the house that night, except one. That figure is the only one police could not identify. The house was demolished in May 2019. The pool, the sculptures, the basement, even the wall where I was installed, even the address no longer leads to the same place. I no longer exist, and whatever I recorded about who came and went disappeared with the house. Based on what I logged, no one entered through me on the night of December 13th. Whoever entered that basement may not have needed my key at all. Through an unlocked door, a window, or by being inside long before that night began. The quiet entry required knowing this house. The layout, the basement, the pool, the door. I let people in. I let people out. I logged the code, the timestamp, the duration, but I was on the outside of the door. Everything I could not record happened on the other side. I cannot say what they knew or how they learned it or when they decided to come back. If someone had already walked through this house before that night, what would I have failed to notice? Don't miss out on the next content. Subscribe, like, and turn on notifications.